to the Life After Pregnancy Loss series. I'm Jamilah Robinson, your host, and I am more than excited to have our special guest, Dr. Glorisel Viera, with us today. Dr. Glorisel is with Texas Children's Women's Pavilion, and I'm going to let you let her tell you more about what she is and how she serves the pregnancy loss community. So welcome to the show today. We're so excited to have you.
Thank you for having me.
For those who haven't met you yet, can you tell us who you are and the role you play in the pregnancy loss and grief care space?
Yes. So I'm a reproductive psychiatrist. So I help women during pregnancy and postpartum, including perinatal loss, for whatever their needs may have. So I help them regarding any kind of mental health care that they need. And so in particularly for women who have gone through a perinatal loss, I help them to see, has this progressed to something else besides grief, like a major depressive episode, or maybe if they've developed something like a trauma response related to a loss, because depending on the type of loss, trauma response may be happening. But also I help women and support them through a next pregnancy, right? Because there's a lot of anxiety that goes into having a subsequent pregnancy after a pregnancy loss.
I didn't know that part about you. So through Missing Pieces, we offer a pregnancy after loss type of support group for the very reason you explained. When you get pregnant again after a loss like this, it is it's a scary thing.
Yeah.
And it does onset that anxiety, which you already know is not healthy for mom or baby.
Yeah.
So thank you for your service in that way. What does that experience look like? So it sounds like it's more than one session with you.
Yeah, for sure.
It sounds like a lot of hand holding.
Yeah, I usually work with my patients as long as I can. We are a short-term clinic, so it's supposed to be maybe up until a year post-loss.
Okay.
Sometimes I've done up until like 15 months because I do know that 1 year birth anniversary or loss anniversary is really, really hard.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I try to be with my patients as long as I can. And, you know, some patients, grief looks different, right? So for some patients, they might need me a little bit less and kind of like just follow up every few months. For some patients, especially if they're in a subsequent pregnancy, they might need a lot of holding that first trimester, second trimester. And so I just follow up with them as long as they need me to.
So as needed.
Exactly.
You treat each individual based on their needs. That's great to hear from somebody like you because, you know, when you get to a stage like this, you come to a point where you feel like nobody's really looking at you holistically. Yeah. They're just diagnosing on what they've seen before. So thank you for being a game changer in that way. So we connected at the Institute of Reproductive Grief Care Conference. And for those of you who don't know about that, it is a great conference for those of us who support those who've encountered this type of loss. I just felt like I was in a room where I found my people because everyone understood and they want to be more supportive in a meaningful way. How did that experience shape your approach to this work?
Yeah, so I met Michaeline, who is the CEO of the Institute of Reproductive Grief Care.
Yeah, she's great.
Yeah, she's amazing. Through our coworker, Kara Buskmuller. So I've been doing research in reproductive grief with Kara. So we're trying to develop a screening tool for complicated bereavement after perinatal loss. And so Kara put me in touch with Michaeline, and then from there I was invited to be part of the healthcare task force. Within the Institute of Reproductive Grief Care to just like give my advice from my own experience. Now, part of that has been like, I've learned from them as well about compassionate care.
Yes.
Which is so important, right? To be compassionate about our patients, to provide adequate time for our patients to grieve, to not pathologize grief. So I've been learning through them. I've been interacting and doing like networking. For example, like we met each other.
Yes.
And so from meeting other people, I also learned from their own experiences and their own specialty as well. So it's really helped shape me in really thinking, okay, I need to provide compassionate care to my patients. And I'm going to be a companion through grief rather than just trying to fix it, right? Because as doctors,
Yes.
everyone's like, I need to fix this.
Yes.
But I'm not really trying to fix anyone. I'm just trying to be a companion in whatever moment and space they're at.
That's great. I hope that the mind shifts in that area for a lot of those workers that support people in that type of loss. Because I can tell you that what women feel right now when they encounter this loss at the space is a colder treatment from those who have to deliver the news and then walk them through the next steps. Mm-hmm. So truly excited about that conference and sharing the knowledge so that we are more compassionate in those situations. So let's talk about what brought you to this work. What led you to this kind of grief work? And was there a particular story or moment or even a personal experience that stirred that calling in you?
Yeah, so I've always been interested in working particularly with women. And so I was doing my subspecialty in women's mental health. And one of the very first weeks of the fellowship, I had, unfortunately, on the same day, 3 patients who had a perinatal loss. And they were all at different stages in their pregnancy. So one was like first trimester, one second trimester, one third trimester. And unfortunately, she also lost her uterus in the process. So she wasn't going to be able to try again. Yeah. And I remember that patient saying, like, I feel like this was stripped from me. You know, like so much anger, frustration, confusion, sadness, so many emotions that came up from that. And that afternoon, when I went back to my home, I was like, oh, I don't know how anyone can do this, right? Because that was a lot of grief and loss every day. But also that same year, I had the loss of both my uncle and my grandfather. Mm. And though it's never the same type of loss, because I would never try and make one loss, try and say it's similar to the other. I think perinatal loss is very different. I think that there is some things that I can find some similarities in and kind of like reflected and wanted to provide that compassionate care to patients in a way where I could see their grief and see where they were at because of my own experiences with grief during that year. And so from there, it just kind of became something where I would get more patients that had perinatal loss. And I feel like if you're able to work on something and actually help people, you should continue doing so.
Absolutely. So you've supported so many people through this type of loss. What kind of emotions come up most often that people are afraid to name or identify to others?
Yeah. I think those that are afraid to be named would be a lot of shame. Yes. Because there is this sense of maybe I did something wrong. So there's also a lot of guilt and my body, like a sense of like my body failed me.
Yes.
And also I think because it's not society like acceptable to have like anger when you've had a loss, because people are like saying not helpful things to put it, you know, in a particular way. So there can be also a lot of anger and people feel afraid of sharing those emotions because other people are not going to understand.
Right. I mean, some of the things that people say can not be helpful and more triggering.
Yes.
Which leads to additional isolation. And it's almost like, well, who do I share this with?
Exactly.
So yeah, thank you for identifying those emotions and bringing them to light. We both know how isolating this kind of grief can be. We just talked about it a little bit. What does it look like truly to be present with somebody in that type of pain?
Yeah. So I feel silence is something that we should be able to do and tolerate. If I have my patient is with me and she is crying, I'm not going to try and interrupt her and just to try and make her feel better. I'm going to sit with her in the silence of that moment and try and grieve with her. Mm-hmm. It looks like reminding yourself of when important dates come up. So the dates of the loss or when they were aware of the pregnancy, those things I kind of like to still be aware, and I make sure to have them on my notes because I want to be able to bring it up to the patient because I know those things are triggering. And so if I remember them, then they feel in a way like, oh, this baby was real, right? Because I hear a lot from my patients like, I don't want people to forget that my baby existed. And so helping them looks like, hey, I remember, I see you, and I see your baby, and I see your loss.
I love that. Acknowledgement is so huge to the person that is going through this type of grief, because most people, even if they do remember, they act like it didn't happen because we're so encouraged to just move forward. So thank you for being present for women during that type of loss. In your experience, what are some small but powerful ways communities can show up better for people in this situation?
Yeah, so I always say helping in like the basics, right? So sometimes people after a loss, they're just going to be needing some food, making sure that the house is clean. Helping in those like basic needs is going to be really powerful. There are care packages that can be sent, and also sending some condolences cards. That is also good. And just, again, acknowledging that they've had a loss. And I also think about down the road, you want to remember like the due date or the birth date, some of those dates. And it doesn't have to be fancy. You can just send a text message, hey, I've been thinking of you. Because I feel like a lot of people may be able to be there present in the very initial process of acute grief, but then they forget about it months later. And so it becomes more isolating as time goes by. So really like letting that person know, hey, you're still not alone. Like I'm still thinking of you. It's really, really valuable.
I totally agree, because grief doesn't have a timeline, right? Exactly. Like it could have happened over a year ago and I'm still suffering on that anniversary.
Exactly.
So it's very helpful to be mindful of things like that. Culture plays a big role in how people grieve. How has your cultural identity shaped the way that you show up in this work?
Yeah, so I'm Latina. I come from Puerto Rico. And so in my family, how we grieve those that have passed away is visiting the burial place, making sure it looks nice. We even leave a little Puerto Rican flag because we're going to be proud of it all the time. And so visiting maybe during Mother's Day, like my mom still visits her mom's, so my grandma's burial site, same with Father's Days and birthdays. And so I always ask my patients, like, is there something within your culture that you would do with anyone that has passed away, right? Because I think we talk about perinatal loss and perinatal grief as disenfranchised grief because the rituals are not done as much as with adults. So then I always ask, like, is there something you want to bring from your culture to be able to feel like the process of the grief process has been completed in a way that feels satisfactory to you. So I think, just asking about my patient's culture and being aware of it and seeing if they can bring something of that in is a good way where the culture shows up.
Yeah, that's huge because you're able to identify with that type of loss, and it just shows ties to who you are. That's great. What are some common misconceptions or stigmas you see around reproductive grief, especially in communities of color?
Yeah. So in general, there's the stigma of mental health, right?
Yes.
And I see it in my own Latina community, in communities of color. So there's this stigma to not look for mental health care. And then when it's grief, there's this, especially with perinatal loss for whatever reason, there's this thought process of, you just gotta move on, and this is all hurtful commentaries, by the way, or people say like, you can have other kids, and
that's a big one.
That's a big one that should not be said. So that's why I wanted to clarify before.
Thank you.
And so I think it's just going to be, I just see it in the clinic where maybe patients really take a long time to get to the clinic because they thought, well, I was just grieving, or I don't think I have depression, or it hasn't progressed to anything else. because there's so much shame and stigma around mental health that seeking help is so difficult. So I see that a lot, unfortunately. And I think we're moving in a good position lately in the last couple of years. There's more healthcare, like mental health care awareness. So I think that's positive, but there's a lot more to do.
Oh, for sure. It's almost like you have to overcome 2 hurdles to get to the help that you finally need. And it's so sad that it stifles the healing process.
Yeah.
What's one thing you wish society or people understood better about the families we support?
Yeah, I think time is so important. So giving a proper time to grieve is going to be important post-loss. And so that includes like the workspace or any place they are, just giving that time. And so, for example, us at Texas Children's Hospital, we have a prenatal bereavement coordinator who comes up. She comes up and visits patients after they've had a loss, but also follows up with them afterwards, even if they're not right in my clinic. And so I think more institutions can copy that in a way, like maybe thinking like, how can we support perinatal loss patients long-term would be really valuable.
Oh, I can tell you, as a woman who's experienced this loss, what you just mentioned would make me feel seen. When in a time where I want to hide, but I know I need help. So it's helpful in the moving forward process. So I'm glad hospitals are making that move.
Yeah.
What's one message as we close you'd want to leave with someone who's watching, who's in the thick of this kind of issue?
Yeah, I first want to validate that it's hard, right? And that your loss is real and it's as valid as any other type of loss. It doesn't matter when in the pregnancy it happens. But that eventually with time, you can feel better. You won't feel the pressure and the darkness that maybe is felt in the moment. And so that you can seek help whenever you need it. Because help is available and there are people that care about you.
So, Dr. Glorisel, how can people stay connected to you and the work that you do?
Yeah, so I work at the Women's Place at Texas Children's Hospital. So there's a webpage. If anyone needs to be seen, we do take patients up until that first year postpartum, so they can call and get an appointment. And so I guess I'll still be in the Institute for Reproductive Grief Care as well, working with them. So those are ways that I will always be involved going forward. And so also just supporting the support groups and seeing what other resources are available within Houston would be a good way to help this area in particular.
Oh, for sure. Well, thank you for your time today.
You're welcome.
Again, a true honor to have someone like you sit down and talk to us about this. It brings visibility to pregnancy loss community and meaningful ways to show up for someone who has experienced this type of loss.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thanks for joining us today. Have a good one.